Welcome to Phoenix Masonry Live.
A show about Masonic Museum artifacts,
Interviews,
Masonic history,
and much more.
I am Frederick L. Milliken, Executive Director of Phoenix Masonry.
And I am Elena Llamas, Director of Public Relations for Phoenix Masonry.
And we are here to
celebrate
our Freemasonry.
Celebrando nuestra francomasonería.
And this show, we're celebrating Masonic Artist Ryan J. Flynn. Brother Ryan J. Flynn resides in Nashua, New Hampshire, with his wife, Kristen, and their daughter, Mia. An artist since his early years, Ryan studied art and design at the University of Massachusetts in Lowell, Mass. There, he excelled at painting, drawing, and the graphic arts. In 2006, Ryan studied abroad in Florence, Italy, where he was instructed in painting and art history at the University of Richmond. He has worked in various mediums such as stained glass, wood cutting, sculpture, mosaic work, painting, and many more. In 2010, Ryan became a member of Ancient York Lodge number 89 of Free and Accepted Masons in Nashua, New Hampshire. He is the current senior steward of Anniversary Lodge of Research in Nashua, New Hampshire, and an honorary member of Sofia Lodge. And he is a member of the Knights Templar. And since 2012, Ryan has been creating what some call some of the greatest Masonic artwork of the 21st century. And he has been called one of, if not the most influential Masonic artists in America. He is an international Masonic speaker, presenting lectures on many topics, including the importance of incorporating the fine arts back into the lodge. Welcome. Phoenix Masonry welcomes you, Brother Ryan Flynn. It's nice to have you here for this show.
Thank you for joining us.
And happy to be here. Thank you guys for taking the time to talk with me.
And as we said in the introduction, we're here to celebrate Freemasonry, and that's what we're all about here on Phoenix Masonry Live. We celebrate our Freemasonry. And so I think there's one more thing that we might celebrate, Brother Ryan. Now, I heard that you're about to be Worshipful Master. Is that right?
Well, if elected. I'm senior. If elected. Yeah, if elected. That's the formal response.
And when is this election?
In a couple of weeks, actually.
A couple of weeks. Well, that's another celebration.
Yeah, if elected, I'll happily serve.
All right. Listen, Ryan, I think the notoriety that began with you, it seemed to have all started with the stained glass windows in your lodge. And yeah. I know that's something in the past, but it still follows you around.
Yeah, most definitely. I was given the chance to step in and help out my lodge. We had a couple of old shuttered windows that were going to be replaced with a pattern, like a faux stained glass window pattern. I had been taught in high school how to do stained glass, and what I ended up doing is designing the pattern so that someday they would be able to stained glass, but it actually printed them onto plexiglass and installed them. So that way it was a lot cheaper to do at the time. But they are designed to be real stained glass windows, and they'd be structurally sound if we did so. But I did them. We unveiled it at an official visitation, and I never stopped hearing from them. I posted a couple of pictures on Facebook, and 1,000 shares later, or whatever it was. It was unbelievable amount of attention that I got from it, and I started to create.
Well, Frederick, you're holding up your autographed copy of the two windows. You know, you can see. Can you hold it a little higher so we can see where the autograph is? There we go. There we go. Nice, nice. Well, Frederick and Ryan did several interviews and articles about the windows, including the windows and Ryan's work. So we're going to have those linked below if you want to read more about that work specifically.
Meanwhile, moving on, Ryan, you're not only an artist, but also a student of history. And you're big time into symbolism.
Yeah, I actually, in college, I only ended up getting my minor in art history and had fulfilled that before I went to Florence to study. And just being in that setting where you see all of this work, as they say, you can walk down a street in Florence and there's a Donatello on the corner. The art history and symbolism just kind of spoke to me, and I just started diving in, and I honestly haven't stopped. I've purchased an obscene amount of books, which I apologize to my wife all the time about. There's books everywhere in my house, and I just love learning about it. And one of the things I was learning about over there that I didn't really realize was the symbolism and methods of building the cathedrals, and what little nooks and crannies actually mean. That's really the basis of Freemasonry. I just didn't know it at the time. And 4 years later, when I was starting to actually learn about Masonic symbolism and ritual and the origins of Freemasonry, all of a sudden you put 2 and 2 together and you start figuring out where it ties together. And yeah, it's just it's a Pandora's box of research that I love every minute of.
You put a lot of this symbolism into your artwork, and sometimes you have surprises for people, right?
Yeah, I try to always have surprises for people. I'm a big time proponent of the artist shouldn't have to tell you what he's painting. You obviously, for example, if you look at a Michelangelo, you know what the painting is. So you know that that's the creation of Adam, with God and Adam touching fingers. But the meaning of it, the symbolism of it, Michelangelo never wrote down. And I think that's what makes it so impressive, is that interpretation allows you to learn more about the meaning to you, how you interpret it, and it becomes for lack of a better word, a religious experience when it comes to opening your mind to such things.
You actually lecture on the symbolism of Masonic symbolism and other symbolism in artwork and ancient artwork. I know because I attended one of your lectures in Lodge Veritas in Oklahoma. That's about an hour presentation with and you explained a lot of symbolism that nobody else would. I would never think of knowing that it was there.
Yeah, it's the interesting.
Here we are at Lodge Veritas.
Yeah. One of the things that people I've found have a hard time realizing, and then once they realize it, it opens their mind, is, Freemasonry, in a way, doesn't own the material. It's kind of the funnel that it comes through. So aspects of Freemasonry have been around in artwork since time immemorial. We just kind of funneled it into the fraternity we have. And if you go back, especially in the Renaissance, because at the time that's when people were starting to read the Greeks again, the ancient writings, and be exposed to all this basically forgotten knowledge. Artists ate it up, and they started sticking it in everything. So ideas like alchemy and hermeticism and basic symbolism that we take for granted and we call Masonic existed before the ritual, and it's in there. So what I try to do in my presentations when I go around is say, it's really easy to get up and read a paper about the all-seeing eye. But if you go into painting and look at the history of how it was interpreted into paintings in the Egyptians, and then taking it into how God was represented in a bunch of clouds, and that turns into an eye, and that eye turns into an aspect of architecture, which in the back, you start having this deep conversation about what the true meaning of this symbol is and how it's right in front of you, even though you don't see it. I always like to use the term the initiated eye, because if you look at paintings through what we learned in Masonry, you're going to learn a lot about the symbolism that you probably just didn't think about in that way. So that's what I try to do in my presentations.
Tell us about the painting we can see in the background. Is that's John the Baptist?
Yeah, that's my latest one. It's actually going to be part of a set. I want to do both the Saints John. So John the Baptist is behind me. That one's finished. It's oil on canvas, and I put a lot of that stuff that we were just talking about into it. Especially with John the Baptist, his mannerisms in a lot of classical paintings, the hand pointing up, the pose that he strikes, why there's a bended knee, even, you know, the little things, why are there rocks, why is there water, why is it the moon? That all means very, very important stuff. And the thing that I like to do, like I was talking about with Michelangelo, is I don't like to tell people what it is. I want them to kind of figure it out on their own. Because then it's a learning experience. And, you know, as everybody knows, a teacher can get up there and tell you something and say, this, you know, red represents passion. But if you go and look and figure out why red represents passion, or why Jesus and Mary always wear blue, you know, when you figure that out on your own time, it becomes ingrained in you, and it's really a lesson at that point. So I try to make sure my paintings are teachable moments, I guess.
What school of art do you subscribe to, if any? I know that you are talking about your strong Renaissance influence, which we clearly can see. We're going to showcase your art throughout the show. So I can see you mentioned Michelangelo, Da Vinci. I can see that in there. And can you tell us if there are different schools? Because you don't just have one style.
No. I kind of subscribe to a lot of other things. As a student of art history, you kind of appreciate every aspect of the history of art. There's a reason why Van Gogh is amazing. There's a reason why Da Vinci is amazing. And when I paint with Masonic themes, I tend to stay in a traditional method. I think, first of all, for a couple of reasons, I think it's my forte. I take a lot of time and effort and pride in painting something like John the Baptist. It's not an overnight thing. It takes months to do. But I think for what I'm trying to teach through my art, that's the best method to do it. Mm-hmm. I could do it with abstract art or more contemporary art styles, but I don't think I should say I think the message would be lost a little bit. That's a perfect example of, you know, the elements done in a more modern style. Oddly enough, my teacher hated that, and that was going to be a gigantic painting, and she said, this is before I was a Mason, that no one cares about that stuff anymore. Oh. So I've actually had that file on my computer for quite some time, thinking that I want to do that full size. But so when I try to teach about symbolism and you know, using my art as that tool, I think the classical style is the best way to portray messages. When I paint on my own, and you know, one of the good things about being an artist is for recreation I paint and for work I paint. When I get outside and are doing landscapes, and I tend to be a little bit more free and kind of do my own thing, which is a little bit more impressionistic than anything. I just like the balance of color. I like trying to make movement and kind of free myself from the turmoil of trying to paint something realistically. So that's kind of my two different styles.
Yes, we can see clearly Impressionism in here.
Yeah, that one I did in Portsmouth. Actually, right after a lodge meeting, I went outside and there was this amazing sunset. So I took a bunch of pictures, and I always carry around a Codex, one of my Codexes, and just kind of sketched out an idea of the rolling clouds, because the wind was moving very rapidly, and you could see these clouds kind of curling under each other. So I came home at, I think it was like 11:30 at night, and went right in the studio and started painting that.
Well, for your more traditional old style work that you're mentioning, you use some fascinating materials. I'm going to mention some here. You use gold leaves. You use 18 karat and 24 and 23 karat gold infused inks and paints and pearl varnish. I'm going to show some of that detailing here. So obviously you're trying to, well, you're not trying, you are bringing back old style techniques, including one where, you know, you tempera, if I'm pronouncing that right, where you mix egg yolk into the paint with vinegar. Can you elaborate a little bit on those techniques?
Yeah, so when I started getting into art, I decided I was going to go the old way and do it the old way with tempera inks. Tempera inks are pigment mixed with egg yolk and vinegar. It can be diluted with water, but when you dilute it with water, it kind of loses that veracity, I guess you could say, of the color and the hue. So you can mix it with a lot of different things and paint on it. That's what most art was painted on before the advent of oil paints. So I was commissioned by a lodge down in Maryland by a brother, TJ Morris, to do a circumpunct on a board. And when I told him my idea is let's do proto-Renaissance style, which is where you see these all Madonna enthroned and, you know, all the saints that kind of look exactly the same. Their faces aren't very realistic. I wanted to do it in that style, so I did it. I bought a nice big piece of wood, sanded it down, used the tempera inks. Yep, that's a print of it right there. And it came out fantastic. And it's kind of a challenge, too, because as someone who strives to paint realistically, to paint someone fake, you know, to me, it always looks like a cartoon character. So when I saw it, I was like, I know I did it right, but I don't like it. But the person who commissioned loved it. It hangs in their lodge now. The photos don't really do it justice because the board was lacquered with a resin. Then I put gold into it and then stamped the gold in by hand. You can buy tools, which I kept a couple out for a reason. That basically, what I do is lightly heat them up after I put the gold leaf down. And I don't know if you can see it. They have these patterns that are etched into it.
Oh, yeah. Can you show it to the camera a little closer?
Yeah. Let's see if you can see it. So there's a pattern.
Oh, yeah. That's, yeah. We can see
one of my larger ones. This is a, you know, another one here.
Beautiful.
And as fun as it sounds, you take a hammer and you hit it once, move it, line it up perfectly, hit it again. And I think I lost count when I was doing the circumpunct because I was in the thousands of hitting it. I had a couple of wax seals etched that I use in some of my patents, which this is one. This for example is a wax seal that I made, which has that actual pattern on it. It's kind of so I use real wax that I order. Actually, there's one of the benefits of the World Wide Web is I can get very nice waxes from Europe that have very special marbling patterns in it when they get heated up. Some of them absorb the ash a little bit, and through trial and error, I just kind of figure out what I like. So for that example you just showed, that was a actual authentic patent that I did in the exact same style as in the Middle Ages. So that's done on handmade vellum, which is extremely thin animal skin. That's what all the old Bibles, you know, in the Middle Ages were made out of. All the lettering is done by hand, and then, as we were talking about before, with the gold leaf, you buy pieces of gold like this. You know, this is 14. Excuse me, this is Florentine gold. That has a little bit of copper in it. I have a whole bunch of them, silver, and basically you lay down a glue, roll down the ink on it, roll down the metal on it and then scrape away what you don't want. And then I can hammer in the textures and stuff like that. And the picture that you just saw, you could see actually on the bar of gold that's going across, you can see these little circle patterns.
Yeah.
What I actually did was I needed something that could scrape but wouldn't cut the vellum. So I bought a bunch of needles of different sizes and nails and heated them up with a blowtorch and bent the end of them. So I made little hooks on them so I could scrape without actually damaging it, because I need something that works. And with a sharp needle, it would have cut right through it. So you can kind of see the little flower of life pattern that I put in there.
Yes, that's what I was assuming was the tool that you had showed us. But
nope, that's all hand scratched.
Wow, wow, beautiful. Well, do you want to elaborate more on your patents? What they are, what the history is with them?
Yeah, well, patents, and a lot of lodges do these. They're basically certificates of membership. And when I got one of the things that kind of stuck out in my head was I went through my degrees. I finished my Master Mason degree, and Worshipful Master comes out and says, congratulations, this is one of the most important moments of your life. You might not recognize that right now, but it is. And then I got handed a certificate, which, though it was a very nice gesture, we had a very nice, the quality of copy that I got was very nice. But going to other lodges, I saw that a lot of these certificates for one of the biggest moments of your life was a photocopy of a photocopy of a photocopy.
Right.
And I thought, I can do better. So,
oh, you have done better. We're showing here, you have different theme patents on your website that we will talk about pricing for our audience, because I think they're very affordable for what you're offering. And here is your Celtic themed one. But there are many. Do you want to talk about what services you offer the average Mason out there?
Yeah, well, what I did for my idea was, as a student of art, and specifically I studied graphic design along with fine arts, you have to take a history of graphic design course. And one of the big sections that you go through is Illuminated Documents. Specifically, you always have to talk about the Celtic ones, like the Book of Kells and others. And I always wanted to do that. So the first one that I did was actually the one you showed with the wax, which is 100% authentic, where iron gall ink, real calfskin, and I priced it out to do this for others, and it's very expensive, and it's also extremely time consuming. And what I wanted to do is have a way to offer this to other people at a more affordable rate, but still retain the quality and look. So I did some research. I came up with this idea that I was going to print these on G-clay printers, which is fine art paper with ink that's guaranteed to last 100 years in sunlight. So if you put it behind a frame and keep it out of direct sunlight, it's a family heirloom that's going to last forever. It's a little expensive to print, but you're getting the quality. So what I would do is take a drawing, draw it down, sketch it out, scan it into the computer, and kind of piece it together on the computer, so that I could print them over and over again. And then once I print them, I can give anybody who purchases one an option. I could further it by putting real gold, real silver, real copper into it, and actually illuminating the document. And you can't tell it's a print, but it is. You have to be honest. But it still has that handmade quality to it, because, like I said, when you see those patterns on the ones that you buy, that's a hammer stroke, move, line up, hammer stroke. And they're very time consuming.
I bet we're showing here, I'm showing here details of them as we speak. And you can tell, I mean, look at that W, the detail, the triangles, and the I'm assuming that's pearl varnish spots in there.
Yeah. So the pearl varnish I only use in a couple of things, because I'm not particularly happy with how it came out. I'm very, very picky. I only have a couple of brands of inks that I like to use because I like the viscosity of it. And, you know, once I know I like it, I use it. And the pearl varnish gave kind of like a sparkly gloss feel to it. But I noticed after I tested it and left it out for a while that the paper kind of absorbs it a little bit. So I kind of worked it out a little bit. This one that you're showing right now is just a print that I do, The Ways of Virtue, which is an opening charge for some lodges. It's one of my favorite parts of ritual, and it was written out, and I forget if it was I forget who the author of that specific part was. I can't think of it right now. I think it was Preston, but I could be wrong, and I'm probably wrong. So everybody yell at me. But this is one of the ones where I kind of put different kind of styles of varnishes and inks, and you can see the bronze and gold in the border there. And then if you look at it a little bit further, there's symbolism in everything. I don't like to tell everybody about everything in this one because I want people to discover it before, but if you were to look at the very bottom of it, and this is my favorite one to share with you, you'll see this geometric pattern that goes across the whole thing. And only when you have it in person, you really can't see it when it's online. You will notice that certain ones are different, have a little bit of different shine to each one of them. And what that is a mathematical representation of the opening notes of the overture of the Magic Flute.
Wow.
Wow. Wow.
Ryan, the one that intrigues me is the Regis Patent. Tell us about this one. This one is fascinating.
That's probably my favorite Master Mason patent. This one took me a very long time to do, at least 3 or 4 different versions before I came up with something. The focal point of it is I like to call it the rose, which features the square and compass in the middle. The square and compass with the 4 virtues going around it. I've actually used that and modified it into other designs as well because I just like it so much that I kind of slice it apart and see where I can use it in other places. But you have that symbolism there, and then you have part of the hieramic legend up in the ornate O at the top. And the reason why we call it the Regis poem is the border that goes around it. Is actually, if you look at it very, very closely, is the text of the Regis poem. So the Regis poem actually encapsulates everything that's in it, which, as many people know, is one of the earliest Masonic documents that we have.
Right. Now, Ryan, I'm not an artist, so I'm a little thick about some of this stuff. So I need to have you explain something to me.
Yep.
What is a codex, and how do you create this? And tell me all about it, because I'm a little lost with the codex.
So a codex is basically a notebook. It's kind of the old word for notebook. Da Vinci is famous for his codexes. That's where he wrote everything backwards, upside down, and wrote every note that he could find. And if you ever have the time to research into Da Vinci, you can actually buy translations of all of his codexes, and what he was writing in there is unbelievable. And I highly recommend it. And as an artist, one of my teachers in Florence actually said that every artist should have a codex. And I kind of took it to heart because especially in Florence, when you're walking around and you see all this art, you get ideas and you want to keep them with you. And as smart as we all think we are, we're going to forget stuff if we don't write it down. So just started writing out ideas, sketching buildings that, maybe I want to feature in a painting somewhere, and been carrying them ever since. I have a few, they're nothing special. They're just books, but they have drawings in it.
Right. Yeah.
These are, this is kind of notes on some symbolism here, a couple of ideas for a painting that I'm sketching out.
Okay, so you're really doing it Da Vinci style with just random thoughts and sketches.
Yeah.
Oh,
so, for example, these last 4 or 5 pages are on the painting that's going to go with that one. And I actually recommend every Mason have one of these. I can't. There's 2 things that I tell every Mason that they should buy: a sketchbook, and actual compass and square. Because when you actually teach yourself geometry and how to use a square and compass, and come up with Euclid's 47th problem using a compass, or come up with stuff like that. Figure out how to use a compass correctly. It's an eye-opening experience, and you can learn a lot about yourself, because when you're working with a compass, you have to be precise. You have to take your time. You have to double check, triple check, go slowly, breathe. And if you mess up, you're going to know it, because if you mess up one place, you mess up everywhere else.
Yeah, there's a Codex.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
so,
on your site, you offer, and this is great art for lodges and not just individual Masons to display. You have a series of codexes. We're showing here the pillars. This is meant to have that feel of notebook art, right?
Yeah, exactly. And a lot of what you're looking at here is the first part of a 3-part Codex series that I did. And it really was from one of my notebooks. I just kind of stylized them as they went. While I was learning the middle chamber lecture, I started writing down everything, and kind of came up with the geometry one, which is the 3rd one in the series, and started sketching it out, and had this idea of incorporating the flower of life into everything. And with that, I just kind of went with it. And these were the first prints that I offered outside of the windows, and they went crazy. To the point where I decided to illuminate them and do a series of 100 illuminated sets of these. And I'm starting to run low. I think I only have 20 left, and I'm never going to do them again. So
wow.
buy them soon.
Ryan, one of the things that impresses me about listening to you talk is that I gather that Florence had a great effect on you. Can you give us a little flavor of that city?
Well, I think it's not just the city, that it's the idea of what that city did that had a big effect on me. Florence, as many people know, was the birthplace of the Renaissance. And it was also the birthplace of the people who funded the Renaissance. And a lot of people don't think that way nowadays. But in the Renaissance, and even up into the 18th, 19th century, the people who actually commissioned the works were as famous for the works themselves as the artist, because without them, the works wouldn't exist. So you had people like the Medici family who would just funnel a ton of money, and realistically, a lot of this was political to make sure that people were happy, but they would fund a lot of money into the arts to promote them and, basically empower themselves. The people who funded the arts please the people, and the people who are pleased typically don't hurt the people who are making it.
Right.
The Medici didn't do that the whole time, but the idea of using art as a gift to the people is something that I think has gone away. We don't think like that anymore. For example, a perfect mentality that has been lost is, let's say your lodge has a member who's been, chaplain for 20 years, and he's finally hanging up his ropes. A lot of people will say, well, let's get him a certificate, and this will be a great way to honor him. We'll give him the certificate, and he'll be happy, and he can take it home and hang it in his room. And that's a beautiful gift. I'm not knocking it in any way. But the mentality of the art, of art appreciation would be, let's commission something in his honor and say,
and to display in the at the lodge.
So let's commission a portrait of him to hang in the lodge, and then years after he's gone, years after the person who commissioned it's gone, he's still going to be there, and people can sit, admire him, and wonder what he did to get this honor. And that way, it's not really a gift to the person himself, but it's a gift to everybody.
Yes.
And that's been lost. People don't think that way anymore, and it's kind of a shame.
And this is part of what you're bringing back ideologically through the art too, the history of that practice being brought back through your art, which is wonderful for visitors to lodges to see. I always, have loved that in the rooms adjacent to the lodge rooms. Whenever I see old photographs of lodge members, and rarely, like you're mentioning, because it has been largely lost, a portrait or items that belong to so-and-so. And so you see, of course, this was perhaps donated by the person or donated or gifted to the person, but it's wonderful to have it there, the history of that particular place and people who have been there.
Yeah, know, when I go into lodges and grand lodges, I can see paintings that were done of George Washington, Paul Revere, and these paintings are so much better than photographs. I mean, they just stand out so well. And you're right. You're right, Ryan. Nobody is doing this in lodge anymore. And I am so happy to hear that you're spearheading this. You are speaking about this wherever you go, are you?
Yeah. Well, one of the things that I try to make very clear is when I talk about this stuff, I'm not advertising for me. When I say support the arts, I don't mean buy my stuff. I appreciate it when you buy my stuff. I'm not saying don't buy my stuff, but but as Masons, specifically when you look at the history of Masonry and the actual tie to the arts that we have, which we can talk about in a sec, the fact that we're not doing this anymore is kind of embarrassing. And there's a lot of reasons why we don't do it. And, we got to face the facts. There's a lot of lodges out there that have $25 dues that just don't save up money and don't have the funds to do this. And it is what it is. But the fact is that a lot of the reason why this doesn't happen is people just don't think this way anymore. So by putting this bug in their ear saying, all right, you have a person in your lodge who's going to be Grand Master. Maybe you should set something aside to honor that. That's a gigantic accomplishment, and you should honor that in your lodge. The other thing is it brings a tie to your lodge. It raises the aspect, the honor, that connection to your lodge even more when it's full of art. And when you hear about these lodge buildings that close that are gorgeous, that nothing has been added to, their dues are barely enough to keep the doors open and put a roof over it, and then they close and there's no connection. Sometimes you feel like a lot of times it's just a building, and true it is. I mean, lodges go wherever they are, and lodges where your brothers are, but if you continuously add to your building through works of art, you get connected to it more and you value it more. There's a reason why churches have art everywhere, because it was a direct connection to that. There's a reason that when Florence, for example, when they wanted a symbol of the people, they sunk an absorbent, a crazy amount of money into a cathedral, because not only because they needed a big place for everybody to go, but they knew that if there was that connection to this building, it would become something more than a building. It would become a symbol of the people that were in it. And that's what our lodges need to become again.
Time is moving along quickly. So I know, Elena, you wanted to discuss with Ryan about his painting, Sofia. What a painting.
Yes. Tell us about Sofia. We know this is a favorite painting of yours.
Yeah, I'm very proud of this painting. Ever since I've been doing Masonic art, I've kind of been doing what people have been telling me, which is fine because I like commissions. Commissions put food on the table. But Sofia was, or the Endurance of Sofia, which is the full title, was something completely out of my own mind. It was something I wanted to portray, an idea specifically in to Masons, and frankly non-Masons too, but I wanted something where Masons could look at a painting and kind of see something that they understood, and then see stuff that they had no idea about. So I went into planning for this painting for quite some time. I researched colors, I researched poses, everything in the background, from the trees that are behind the archway to why there's 2 arches in the bridge, to the ruins, to the colors in her armbands. Everything in this painting has an extremely specific meaning to it, and I was very proud of myself because I managed to tie all of these thoughts and ideas into one moment. I was lucky enough to have a model available through there's actually a great website out there that helps you provide models for paintings. And I worked off a photograph of this woman in this pose, and everything worked out great. So having something where there's a square and a compass in it, and all the Masons go, "Oh, there's a square and compass. This has something to do with Masonry." And frankly, the square and compass are probably the least symbolic aspects of what's happening in this painting right now. I was thrilled to do it. It was a tedious painting. It took me months and months to do. It's probably one of my most realistic paintings. When you get close to her face, her face took forever. But I wasn't settling for anything less than what I wanted.
Awesome.
And the top off the whole experience, I brought it to Masonic Con this year at Ezekiel Bates Lodge in Massachusetts, and within an hour, someone bought it. And just that feeling of I've poured my heart and soul into this thing and it's appreciated it's a really cool feeling.
Well, you not only do paintings, and we've discussed a lot of your paintings, but I have seen you do some mural on a wall.
Yeah, my new job. Yeah, I've done a few murals. I did a mural for a pizza shop in Boston, and came out great. Again, an Italian theme, so it was, But this painting, that's a painting in progress. My current employer, I just got a new job, had me design a whole new showcase room down in Pawtucket, Rhode Island, and they coat paper there. And I came across this wood engraving from the 1870s of an old-fashioned wood coating machine, and decided to do it on the wall. So for a week, they had me painting that wall, and I love how it came out. It's quite big. I think it's 23 feet wide by 8 or 9 feet tall. I was very happy with it. I like to call it practice because I have this dream of muraling a Masonic lodge. In fact, my lodge has a very high ceiling with a border going across it that I've already planned out just in case someday I have the chance to get up there and paint. But on my Masonic wish list, I guess you could say, doing a ceiling or doing a large mural in a lodge is pretty close to the top.
Ryan, you do some social media, I'm going to call it service because you don't have to be doing this. You have a Facebook page called the Pillar of Art. No, the Pillar of Beauty, Art in Freemasonry, along with another Masonic artist, Chad Messler. Do you want to talk about that?
Yeah, Brother Chad and I kind of started talking together a while ago just because we were both interested in the arts. He's a stained glass artist who is really impressive. And the one thing I noticed about Chad is he understands art history, and he kind of knows how to talk about art at the next level. He's also, I don't know how he does it, but he is able to just find stuff. So we came up with this idea of just doing an informal Facebook page where we're highlighting Masonic art. And it's not just art by Masons, though, if you are an artist out there and you are a Mason, contact me because I want to show your work. It's very important that your work is shown. But it's also art that has potential Masonic symbolism in it, or something that could be construed as Masonic out of reach. Or sometimes we just want to talk about a painting and talk about, and not just paintings, I should say, music, drama, anything that could loosely relate to Freemasonry. Most of it is pretty direct relations, but
yes, I'm familiar with it, and I have to say it's a really good quality. The posts are well researched and put together, and so I recommend everybody. We will link it below, so you can visit it. And before we wrap up this interview, Ryan, is there anything else about the role of art in lodges and in Masonry in general that you would like to mention?
Yeah. First of all, what I tell every lodge that I meet: talk about the arts in lodge. That's the start. Just talk about it, and it doesn't have to be Masonic. What I would recommend is take a really famous painting like The Last Supper and of Leonardo, and put it on a screen, bring it into lodge, and just talk about it. Because what you're doing is something like, I like to compare it to how a vocalist warms up his or her throats and muscles before a performance. By looking at a work of art and thinking about it on another level, a symbolic level, you're opening up your mind and exercising it in a way where you're thinking at the next level. And that's what Masonry is all about. And Masonry is not about actually a square and a compass and drawing a circle and a right angle. There's a lot more to it, and it's at a different level. So art can be used as a tool to kind of open up your mind and think about it in that way. So that's one thing I always tell lodges. It's really easy to do. You don't need to be an art historian to understand a lot of art. 20 minutes of research can get you a lot of talking points. The other thing is support the arts in your community as much as you can. It doesn't mean commissioning multi-$1,000 works of art from an artist down the street. What it could mean is going to an art museum together, or going to the theater, going to a concert. You want to really impress the community. What better way to advertise your lodge than to hire a quartet to play Mozart someday outside your lodge for a day? Yeah,
and Masonry, I mean, encompasses and always meant to all the liberal arts and sciences, and it's an aspect of Masonry that I think
by showing that you support the arts in a world nowadays where the arts don't get a lot of support, you're to use the A word, you're advertising to the public that there's somebody out there who still cares about this stuff. And whether it, like I said, whether it be through music, drama, arts, writing, it doesn't matter. Just show that somebody still cares about this, and your lodge will grow because of it. I've seen it happen. I've heard of lodges after one of my talks putting together a scholarship for an art student. And it could be $100. That first time you get money because you're an artist is an amazing feeling. And, that person might petition that lodge sometime soon. A story that I always end one of my presentations with, and I don't know the names off the top of my head, so I apologize, but recently the Grand Lodge of Pennsylvania, commissioned a painting of the Friend to Friend Memorial in Gettysburg. And this artist came in and did this beautiful black and white painting, gorgeous, gorgeous painting. And it made the front page of the local newspaper when it was unveiled in Philadelphia. And at the end of the article, he said, "Yep, I've put my petition in." So you're showing and what that's saying is this artist, who probably didn't know jack squat about Freemasonry, now realizes that there's this group of people out here who actually care about this kind of stuff, that promote the arts, and any artist is going to fall in love with that, because Freemasonry is an endless supply of ideas for artworks. So wherever you can, try to get it out there. You don't need to use a Masonic artist if you want to. I don't mind, but we need more Masonic artists out there. You know, one of the reasons I put that quote that someone said about me as one of the most influential Masonic artists of the century. Well, I really appreciate the sentiment, but there's only a handful of us, and being the best, you know, being considered the best out of 5 or 6 is a lot different than being the best out of a couple hundred. I don't want to be the best Masonic artist out there. I want someone to take that. And there are some amazing artists out there who are Masons, and there are a lot more amazing artists who aren't Masons who would be a perfect fit. So support the art.
So as we wrap up here, I want to tell everybody that's viewing that they can go to Ryan's website, www.ryanjflynn.com, to check out more of his work and what he does. And Ryan, you can be commissioned to do work for lodges or for individuals, and they can get in touch with you to do this. Can you give us an idea maybe of how they do this, how they go about this, and what general price range we're talking about?
Yeah, well, the price range, usually I price things by size, just because it is, when you paint in the style that I do, like John the Baptist here, the corner where he's not there takes as long as the corner where the center of the painting where it is. It's a long commitment to time, and you know, a lot of people like to cheapen artists' work a little bit and say, you know, yeah, I'll give you a couple $100 for that, or I'll give you $50 for a painting. I'm like, all right, well, you're paying me, you know, $1 an hour. But I do try to keep my prices as low as I can. A painting this size, which is pretty considerable size, that's 40 inches high, would probably go for $1,800 to $2,000. But lodges are commissioning stuff more and more for me. I just got another commission from a lodge in California. This one that you're showing now was commissioned for an anniversary of a lodge in Florida. And when you commission a work, a lot of people come in and with the idea, this is what I want to paint. And that's fine. But what I like to do with anybody who commissions work for me is kind of work with them on the idea. Because most likely the person commissioning the artwork is not an artist and is not thinking at it at that artist level. So, you know, if you come in and say, I want a painting of this Worshipful Master, great. So tell me what he did. You know, okay, well, why don't we not just do a portrait of him? Let's do a, all right, but he has this real big passion for rainbow girls. All right, so why don't we not do a portrait of him? Let's do a portrait of a rainbow girl and doing some sort of charitable work. And we kind of work and come up with an idea that way. So usually what it starts with is an email. We can talk. If I'm out of your price range, I hope I'm not. I try to keep it fair. We'll get something going. Usually what I do with commissions also is to raise a little money for your lodge. I'll scan the painting and we'll sell prints of it, and we can give proceeds of the prints either back to your lodge or to a charitable organization. Basically, we can use art to get some money to people who need it.
And also, I saw some very, very affordable prices for prints. There for the patents. Can you cover what you offer to Masons, not lodges, but individual people?
Yeah. So any patent that I do, I have a couple of things. I because of my obligations that I did, I can only do commissions. I can only do patents, I should say, to lodges that my Grand Lodge New Hampshire recognizes. It's borderline if I don't. There are some very unfortunate Grand Lodges that I really want to do work for that need hopefully will be resolved. But right now, because of the oath and obligation I took, I can't do that. And what I usually do with these prints is I offer 2 versions, one without the gold and one with gold and all that stuff. Usually a patent only costs about $100 without the gold, and between $140 to $170 with the gold. I also do my own framing too, and can frame those on site, and they come out fantastic. And one of the things I do with the framing is I call it dummy framing. I cut all the mats, put the frames together, make it look really nice, but I loosely put it together so that when it arrives, you can take it out, have your secretary sign it, put it back in, and it'll look all the same. You can't tell the difference from the front, but it allows me to do the framing for you without sealing it in so that you can't sign it.
Okay. Awesome. Well, Ryan, we can't thank you enough for coming here today.
Yes, thank you.
Happy to do it.
A pleasure to talk with you. We will link below, again, past interviews that you've done with Phoenix Masonry, and including a video interview and links to your Facebook page and your website where people can contact you. And you can find on Ryan's website, he has the Codex prints for sale. He has a lot of very cool things there that it's definitely worth the visit. So thank you, Ryan.
Thanks a lot, Ryan.
Well, thank you for having me. I really appreciate it. I'm sorry if I chewed your ear off, but once I get talking about art, it's you guys
we love it. We love it.
No complaints here. And well, thank you everyone for joining us. That's all we have for you this time.
I'm Frederick L. Milliken.
And Elena Llamas.
Parting on the Square.
Pots.
Hello folks, I'm here with Jim Macbeth, Macbeth Knives, and we're here to explore the craftsmanship that goes into making knives. A lot of them Masonic knives. Jim, good to see you.
Glad to meet you finally too, Fred. We've done a lot of communicating over the internet and whatnot, but glad you could come down and visit with us.
Oh, it's great. And you are past master?
I'm past master of Plano 768.
In Texas, okay.
Texas, yeah.
All right. Well, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go get behind the camera because this is your show, not my show. Okay?
Very good.
Okay, Jim, sit down and let's start off with, what are we starting off with?
Well, a little bit of background on me.
Yeah.
I guess it's 3 or 4 years ago, son-in-law asked me one day if I had given any thought maybe what I wanted to kind of do as a hobby, and wondered if I'd think about making some knives. And I said, well, shoot, yeah, I'll take a look at it. Well, I looked into buying a forge and doing all the metallurgy and that sort of stuff, and Fred, it was just way too much work. I was retiring. I wanted a hobby. I didn't want another job. So I decided to see if I could find some knives that some of the knife makers had already made, and so I did. And we were able to get some what we call knife blanks. And I fashioned all the handles, the pins, and so forth. And we're going to be looking at some of that in a little bit. But just as an idea, I had to learn a little bit about steel. And of course, steel is made up of iron and then some alloys that are added, like, for example, chromium, molybdenum, nickel, that sort of thing. So I had to learn a little bit about that, and I found some manufacturers of knife blanks that had good steel, good quality, and so we began buying 2 or 3 different ones to see if I was going to like doing this and really want to spend some time doing it. And sure enough, it's been a big lot of fun for me, and certainly a lot of time to enjoy the actual process of doing this. And in a sense, for the last 3 years, Fred, we've had, just through communications with other brothers around the state and around the country, as a matter of fact, have bought a lot of my knives. So it's been a real joy. One of the things that I think he also wanted to look at was, for example, some of the wood that we use. And I've got a couple of examples of that. If you can kind of zoom in on some of this. This is a sample of some of the wood that we use. This is all what we call exotic wood, meaning that it's not common elm or oak and that sort of stuff. This is more like something called bloodwood, Bakoti wood, Padawack, something called Bubinga, Wingay, which is a very dark wood. All these come from various parts of South and Central America. Some we even get from North Africa. That's only those trees grow in those parts of the country and the world. So we found some different manufacturers and purveyors of the wood that had, once they bought the lumber, then they would make these wood blanks. And so that was just one shot that I showed. Here's another one, if you can see some of this, Fred. One of the things that were interesting to look at was some of these are hard to get now. One in particular is called Coco Bolo, and it's become very almost extinct in some places, certainly on the endangered list. And the prices have gone sky high to get knife, what we call scales in the trade. These are just 3 or 2.5 inches by 5 inches. Those are called scales. It's really the handles in wood. You can see here's another one. There's Bacote wood, something called Black Limba, Red Heart. Some of these have a very much a red tone, a deep red tone too. Here's one of the ones that I told you that was getting very hard to get and come by, is Cocobolo rosewood. So at any rate, we found some people online that we could buy these woods from, and we developed good relationships between several of them, and so we continue to buy from those guys.
And these are the woods you make the handles of the knife.
Yeah, these are the ones we make our handles out of.
Right.
Then the next ones we had the knife made, we decided, well, people are not going to want to carry a knife without a sheath. And so I started looking around at someone to make a sheath for me. I found somebody here in Bernie. He's a saddle maker, and he just frankly didn't really have the time to do the ones that I kind of wanted to do. We bought a few from him, and then I accidentally ran across a husband and wife team in Mississippi that had some knives on the internet that I really, really liked. And so I got to know them and started ordering sheaths from them. And in order for them to make a sheath, they needed what we call tracings. So once I get a knife blank, here's another example of one. If you can see that, I have to give the overall dimension of it, how actual wide what the length of the blade itself is, what the length of the handle is, how wide is the handle, how wide is the actual blade at these various points. And so this is what they need in order to, for example, there's the buoy trace, or our buoy knife that we use. They have to have these kind of dimensions since they're not anywhere local. Don't send the knife to them, and they make the sheaths for me. And they're excellent craftspeople. They're terrific leather workers. They use top quality leather, and so all the customers that we've sold knives to really like the products that they have. So here's some that you'd asked me for kind of special sort of orders maybe that we'd done in the past. This was called, if you can see this one, this is what I call my Scottish Rite knife. This represents the 18th degree and Scottish Rite Masonry. We had an emblem actually manufactured for it, and then our sheath makers actually put the Rose Croix sheath, you can see, on that, and hand crafted into the sheath itself. And we have several brothers who bought those. This was a brother too that's in South Texas. He buys some for his workers on the ranch. He buys in bulk from me, so I have to make sure I get these ready for him, and he gives me plenty of time to get them ready. He gives these as gifts. He has their initials put in the handles, has their initials put on the sheath, and so forth. One of the ones that was kind of a unique one was this one. We had a brother I think out in California who had something called a pelican emblem that he was given this as a gift to the Royal Order of Jesters in the shrine, and he wanted this pin emblazoned on the rear side of the other knife. You know, on the flip side, he's got the square and compass, but it was an unusual request, and we were able to do that for him. This is a special one I like to highlight too. This is a real Texas Ranger badge that was made into a concho that we donated a big Bowie knife to the Texas Ranger Foundation, former Texas Ranger Foundation, and so they auctioned that off for their benefit of their foundation. So we did that back a couple of years ago, and we enjoyed doing that for them. Another big Bowie that we gave as a gift that was being auctioned off for another benefit, special benefit. We had a brother asked us to put together a presentation box in presentation of to our past Grand Master, and we found a box and had it very nicely done, and the year of his coin and so forth. So that was a nice opportunity for us to do a little extra for that brother. Here's where this brother in Texas he wanted some buffaloes conchos. So we were able to find some buffalo conchos for his, and so we had those made. Another one for him as well we did later. This was where he wanted something both from a hunting and a fishing. These are all fillet knives down here. I'll have one out we'll look at in a little bit, Brother Fred, and I'll show you what one of those looks like. This was kind of unusual too. Here's a brother from up north who is in the oyster shucking business. I guess he's an oyster hunter. And he sent me a knife and said, can you make a handle for this and put a past master emblem in it for me and have a sheath made? And I said, yeah, we'll try doing that for you. And so he's very, very happy with that. That was another special order. And I guess the last one I'll show you was this one was from a Deputy U.S. Marshal in Arkansas, Lady Marshal. And she was, knows one of my nieces over there, and my niece put her in touch with me, and she said, I'd really like a knife, and I'd like a badge, or at least a concho with a deputy badge on it. And I found one that was able to craft for her, and so this was another special thing we enjoyed making and presenting to her. She's very happy with this knife. Actually, she's bought some other knives from me, so this just gives you an idea of some of the ones we've done. I guess to look at some examples of the knives themselves.
Yeah, the actual knives here now.
Here's one that we have. It's non-Masonic. Happens to be, we've had a lot of friends of Masons that would call and say, can you make one without the Masonic emblem? I said, of course. This just has a little Texas concho on it, and this sheath, and of course the knife is a nice looking knife, and again the handle on it is one of our exotic woods. Very, very nice, very stained, detailed, grained. Is one. Another big one is this one. And this is become a pretty much very favorite this year. And it had this hammered look, if you will, if you can see that. And of course we've got the Masonic emblem in the handle, and then the square and compass on the sheath. So that's a popular model, by the way, too. And one you found a while ago that you kind of liked was this little thing here. I think I called it the chipmunk, and it's a little small knife. You can see I put square and compass emblem on it, and it also has this hammered look here, if you can see that. Are you getting that? Okay, good. And then I found a little sheath for it. They sent me a little sheath. It doesn't have a concho on it, but it sure shows up really good too. It's very black and it goes good with the handle. So we just married those two together. Now there's a special, I think you ran across one of steel that's a little bit different, and some of the brothers like what they call the Damascus steel. And if you look at that, you can see the various patterns in this. Damascus steel is a combination of what they call 1095 steel, and then there's another steel that they fold and put together and weld and fold in. It's called 15N20 steel. It's an alloy steel they put in there, and it has some nickel in it, which when they etch the steel after they've welded and folded it numerous times, they'll etch it, and it shows up all the beautiful pattern you can see in it. And there's I don't know, 4, 5, 6 different types of patterns. One's called rainbow, raindrop, ladder, some of the others. but they make a beautiful, beautiful knife. Very sharp, by the way. And I guess the last one is another Damascus knife. And again, you can see the different patterning, and there's no two of these alike. No matter what the pattern is, there's no two of them alike. And again, the etching process that the knife maker actually does brings out the shine on that knife. This also has, if you can see the detail on it, it's got what they call file work. The knife maker, when he made this, spent a lot of time doing the filing on that, on the top part of that, and it's a beautiful knife.
It's sort of etched on
this. Well, they actually
on the top part.
No, they actually take a file and file the steel to make all the pattern that you can see.
It's a pattern on there.
It's a pattern. Yeah, it's a process they go through, and they just repeat the pattern. They love it. It's got this really pretty touch to it. Actually, I made this one for me. It's the reason it's still here. And so that one. So, but it's again, and all these sheaths, of course, have belt loops on them. So those are just some of the knives that I still have available, except for that one. That's mine. But we're really down in our inventory. We got really busy and had some sales, and so we've kind of taken a time now to sit back a little bit. We had a lot. We also have a part of our other work. We teach real estate at the local board of real estate board, and so we have to split our time between some things. And actually, Fred, we're still retired, you know, so we have to spend a little time retiring, right?
Right. So this is like part one of the videos we're going to do. We're going to go out to the shop in a minute, and we're going to see how the process is actually done. Before we go, I'll just take a little sweep of your beautiful office here.
Okay. Right.
And you've got some beautiful pictures.
Yeah, this has got a Western theme to it. Some of these things we bought at auction over the last 35 years. Most of all the prints that we bought, some of this is a real painting here.
I think the windows are kind of getting in the way here.
I'm sorry that's not good lighting for you. This is especially when you get around here to see the big Indian chief, that we really like that one. That's a beautiful dress, Indian dress he's got on him.
Well, very good, Jim. Part one is done, and now we'll proceed out to the shop to do part two.